In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the national media in the U.S. was engrossed by a series of murders in Northern California, with San Francisco central to the killing spree. Dubbed the Zodiac Killer, law enforcement confirmed that the serial killer murdered 5 victims, though the killer claimed it was more in letters to the press. At the time, San Francisco alone had a population of approximately 716,000. I'm here in Haaland, Montana, the county seat of Bighorn County. Haaland has a population of approximately 3,500. Bighorn County has some 27 documented missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls cases, and approximately 20 missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys cases. Like the Zodiac Killer, most of the perpetrators of these crimes are yet to be apprehended and brought to justice. In Haaland, at least half of the MMIWG cases are unsolved. 86% of missing and murdered Indigenous people cases in Montana remain unsolved. But unlike the Zodiac Killer, the nation's media isn't focused here, though there are 240 plus more victims and likely many more due to underreporting. Bighorn County has the highest per capita rates of MMIWG cases in the U.S. I'm here to find out why this county, with fewer than 14,000 residents, and this small reservation border town Haaland, has been called the epicenter of the MMIWG tragedy.
Selena wasn't there.
We're getting stonewalled every which way we turn.
That's where they had found her body.
The racism in the Montana legislature is blatant and it can get ugly.
Something could have happened on reservation and then they're transported off. The jurisdiction question remains confusing even in those kinds of situations.
It's like they didn't even want to help me.
They don't do anything because we're Native American.
They couldn't give us an answer for anything.
They knew right away it was her and they didn't tell us.
Case closed, natural causes.
I know she was placed here and there's foul play.
Coushatta Stops Pretty Places was a young Northern Cheyenne and Crow woman who was intimately familiar with both reservations and Bighorn County. In the summer of 2019, Coushatta's family expected her to return home from Missoula, Montana to attend the Northern Cheyenne 4th of July powwow.
She loved Missoula, Montana, and she loved the Hellgate High School there, so she had hoped to go back and then go on to media arts, which the theater there at the University of Montana is what we had discussed, and I was hoping that she could get her legs there in university before she headed to maybe New York or California. She was just like an excellent athlete, and that kind of runs in her family from her grandpa Joseph Bulltail to her mom, and she just really excelled in that. A lot of coaches were watching her.
Coushatta never got on the bus in Missoula. Instead, she was transported by a parolee to an isolated location in Pryor on the Crow Reservation. There, Coushatta found herself at the nexus of methamphetamine distribution and human trafficking that is central to the MMIWG crisis. Coushatta was held against her will, but unlike many young women in that situation, she managed to escape. During that time, it is said that Coushatta learned information about another Bighorn County murdered and missing Indigenous victim. 2 weeks after her 18th birthday, Coushatta's body lay exposed to the August heat in a yard adjacent to one of the busiest roads in Haaland. Is the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office and County Attorney still claiming that her body had been in that yard for multiple days before it was found?
They still claim that her body laid in the spot that it was found, and that it was there for several days, at least 5 days. But the spot that she was found is a very high traffic area, very visual area. Okay, so this is the yard where they found Coushatta's body here. And her body was right here with her head facing, this would be east, and her legs facing west. And she was laying prone on her belly with her arms under her. I know she was placed here, and there's foul play because She didn't just die from a drug overdose or a seizure or anything. The person that found her, he was jogging and he saw her body right away. There's absolutely no way that her body could have been laying there in such a visible place for that long without being discovered. When we spoke with the person that found the body, they called for help. And when they came, the officer did not secure the scene. People were walking in and out of there, and he himself told them, shouldn't you secure this area? Shouldn't you secure the scene, you know? So that whole scene was compromised. Kids were tweeting that the body that was found was the body of that Stops girl, that 17-year-old. The first officer absolutely knew that that was Coushatta. He is the same officer that she spoke to, the same officer that made comments about, oh, she's just probably out partying, you know, she'll come back.
Can you tell us why the first officer had to recuse himself?
This officer is involved in a brutality beating of Coushatta's brother just a week before.
So you believe that Coushatta filming this brutality from an officer beating her brother, who was in a wheelchair at Crow Fair, contributed to the lack of responsiveness to her case?
I believe that.
Coushatta's family has only been granted one meeting with each of the Bighorn County Sheriff, the Undersheriff who has her case file, and County Attorney Jay Harris. Even their requests for documentation from Harris's MMIP task force have been ignored. Harris declined an interview with me, but I thought he might at least be willing to share some of the task force's findings. Yes, ma'am. So the county attorney, Jay Harris, said that he wouldn't do an interview on camera, but that he would provide background information. Okay. So do you have any documentation or findings of the MMIW task force that he put together after Coushatta's murder?
I'm sure we do, somewhere in the office.
Okay. Could I wait to get those, or?
Can I have you have a seat over there and I'll see what I can find?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
County Attorney Jay Harris, who was highly defensive. He really didn't have any answers for us. A lot of the questions that I asked the sheriff, I asked him, and he had no idea of any of it.
Despite verbal and written commitments from County Attorney Jay Harris, I'm still waiting for the documents. Is it true that County Attorney Jay Harris objected to you asserting that Coushatta was the victim of murder?
Yeah, he got really upset. When I was speaking with him, I kept using the word murder, so he got upset. He was like, why do you keep saying murder? Why do you keep saying she was murdered? You know, he got really forceful with it. And it really kind of shocked me because I was thinking, why so much emotion here? Why this reaction, you know?
Why so much emotion here? It's a good question, but like so many related to Bighorn County murdered and missing Indigenous tragedies, it remains unanswered. The family and friends of Selena Not Afraid are also among those waiting for answers. The 16-year-old Crow girl went missing at this rest stop on I-90 during the afternoon of New Year's Day 2020. Selena, a minor, was traveling with 5 adults, 2 men and 3 women, having attended a New Year's Eve party in Billings. The driver of the vehicle claimed the group pulled into this rest stop due to car trouble. During the time it took to restart it, Selena exited the vehicle with one of the women. The driver and 3 others left them. The woman with Selena was picked up 15 minutes later. She claimed Selena had wandered off alone. What we know is that 5 adults abandoned a minor in the dead of a Montana winter. On January 20th, Selena's body was found in close proximity to the rest stop. Yesterday, I was at the site where Selena Not Afraid's body was found. I thought there were some things about the case that didn't add up before I got there, and now those discrepancies are even greater. And I understand that Selena was your granddaughter's best friend. Could you speak about your impressions and concerns about the case?
Selena should be graduating this year. And my granddaughter was in touch with Selena the entire time, like New Year's Eve. She came into my room and she said, Grandma, Selena is missing. And I said, oh, she'll show up. No, Grandma, she's missing.
Which agency coordinated the search efforts?
I want to say Bighorn County did. If I can remember right, I believe Bighorn County did. There was a lot of volunteers, and then a search and rescue, we came in. It was different for us because we were coming in as an invite. It's not our jurisdiction, so everything we did, we had to come with permission every day. Anywhere we went on the lands, we asked for permission.
What did you wish you had that you didn't, that would have aided with the search?
I'm not sure if I ever thought about wishing for anything other than to find her, to hear that she was okay, that she was with family. That's what the focus is on.
It seems impossible that searchers wouldn't have found Selena's body as soon as they began, given how close she was found near the rest stop fence line. Searchers were going shoulder to shoulder, and there's no doubt that they scoured that area. How could her body have possibly been found after the break due to weather when the search was resumed?
So many nights I came, I wonder that Selena wasn't there. Somebody brought her back there. That is the only take I have on it, that she wasn't there. Somebody took her back there. Somebody took her body back there. And that is so clear to me, because I know from standing there where we were and just looking out to where her body was found, those areas were combed for days. They were combed, but she wasn't there. I, in my heart, think that someone hurt Selena and then put her back out there.
A couple of hours after Selena's body was found, Bighorn County Sheriff Lawrence Big Hair issued a press release declaring, quote, "Foul play is not suspected." Before even a preliminary autopsy, Selena was categorized as another victim of hypothermia. County Attorney Harris, who is reportedly at odds with Big Hair, issued a statement criticizing the premature declaration. Big Hair's career has not been without controversy. Under Sheriff Eric Winburn told Montana Public Radio that there was no evidence that Selena's body had been moved, claiming that there were no tire tracks or footprints deep enough to indicate her body had been carried there. "We have no evidence that there was foul play," Winburn said, "but there is clearly evidence of criminal negligence."
When you're in a border community, particularly Bighorn County, which includes part of the Crow Reservation, includes part of the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, and then when we're talking about Haaland in particular, that creates confusion in itself. So there's this assumption in Bighorn County that if someone, particularly an individual that was missing, that they're then found, and they're found off reservation in Bighorn County, that there would be this clarity that it's state jurisdiction. That's not always the case, where something could have happened on reservation and then they're transported off. And so the jurisdiction question remains confusing even in those kinds of situations. We've seen so many times that out of Bighorn County there are decisions made about what the cause of death is, so the case is closed. And if everyone has this assumption that Bighorn County has jurisdiction, then no one else really has the ability to step in. The FBI, BIA, tribal law enforcement could be involved if the governments agree to work together, where there is some sort of common goals and communication with each other and protocols developed. But with that lack of coordination, we see cases that start to fall through the cracks, families that start to feel like they're being ignored. And ultimately the feeling that they get is that the life of their family member didn't have value. When there is no active effort to figure out what happened, and there's just this determination, case closed, natural causes.
Case closed, natural causes describes the experience of Paula Castro and Nathan Stopps. The FBI, BIA, and the U.S. Attorney's Office concluded that their daughter, 14-year-old Henny Scott, died of hypothermia. Henny was last seen alive on December 8, 2018, at a home on Muddy Creek near Lame Deer. The official record states that 5 of her peers were with her. Her parents have reason to believe that several other people were present. Henny's body was found within 200 yards of the house. The forensic examiner didn't record any significant trauma. Photos of Henny's body suggest otherwise. Can you tell me how long Henny was missing before law enforcement decided to do any type of search?
It was like they finally got involved maybe about the second week she was missing. She was missing a total of 28 days.
So you had to reach out to them in order to try to get answers, and they never gave you answers?
No. I mean, everything we would ask, they couldn't answer. They couldn't give us an answer for anything. Their investigation didn't take more than 2 months. They just opened, and before we knew it, it was closed. Closed case that she passed from hypothermia, accidental. But it just seemed kind of off to me, like suspicious, like that they were trying to cover up what happened to Henny. I think that she did get beat because when we brought her home from the funeral home, it looked like she had a broken nose. It looked like she had some bruises on her knees and like a cigarette burn on her shin, and she had bruises and contusions and bumps on her head, and noticed some of her hair was missing. The person that did her autopsy couldn't tell me how all that came about.
Well, all the concerns that you raised to him, what did he tell you exactly about the only reasoning was that hypothermia caused everything?
Yeah.
Caused the bruising, and that was basically all they kept telling you.
Mm-hmm. They kept telling me that maybe she's with a friend, maybe she's got a new boyfriend, did you try checking there? It's like they didn't even want to help me.
If this were to be a white girl, that she would be found immediately, that something would be done. Mm-hmm. And it's just unexcusable that they don't do anything because we're Native American, we're Indigenous women and girls. And we're not lesser than. And we're not gonna continue to be treated like we are, because we're all human beings. And that was your daughter.
I won't get to see her graduate. I won't get to see her get married. I won't get to see her have kids. They took that away from me.
Hearing MMIWG statistics is one thing. Hearing heartbreak from family members reliving trauma is something else. We must say their names. Representative Ray Peppers carried Hannah's act through the Montana State Legislature so that those stats could become lifelines. She shared a story that there is no words for, only silence.
I had a law enforcement officer tell me this story. He had a friend in the Bach, and this officer received a call regarding 3 little boys who had gone fishing down by the river. They reported that they heard crying in the bushes, went to investigate, found a huge box with a tarp over it, pulled it up. It turned out to be a cage with 5 little girls in there. 2 were Caucasian, 2 were Indigenous, 1 was Hispanic. These little boys had the foresight to say, we're not going to go all together. We are going to split up and see if we can make sure we find someone who can help. All three of them made it out, reported it. This particular law enforcement officer showed up and to find these girls and rescued them. But that situation is not unique to Indian country. It goes clear back to colonialism. And you can read some of Columbus's journals talking about there's a real need for 10-year-old girls.
At Standing Rock, descendants of some Lakota who fought here are today bearing the brunt of the Bakken shell boom. "I cherish the land," said Crazy Horse. "We are the land." The epicenter of the MMIWG tragedy, Bighorn County, is also surrounded by extractive industry. What is happening to the land is happening to us. We are being raped, killed, trafficked, strip mined. The theft of the sacred Black Hills for gold mining brought the 7th Cavalry here. Custer died on this hill as a mortar to the military-industrial complex. We are dying every day as its victims. Highway 212 parallels the route Custer took to the Little Bighorn on the trail of the Lakota and Cheyenne families. He brought an army to attack them in their homes. Crazy Horse, we hear what you say. Today, Cheyenne women and children are still being hunted on that route. Here on the Cheyenne Nation, there is an incredible amount of semi-truck traffic that goes through the heart of the reservation on Highway 212. That must create an intense amount of vulnerabilities for Cheyenne women and girls in the community. What do you want to do to reduce that threat?
I would like to educate. I think education of our daughters and our nieces, all of our girls, our sons, they are victims as well. You know, recently our casino stopped letting semis park there. Park overnight parking or anything, or even just to come into the casino, they have stopped letting them go there because there was some illegal stuff happening there. I know that those semis stop along the road. I know that anybody who's walking on those roads, as soon as they get on 212, there could either become a statistic of either death, a kidnapping, a rape, anytime any human being gets on that road on 212.
Behind me is Interstate 90. Tribal leaders in Montana have referred to Interstate 90 as the second highway of tears. I'm here at Love's Truck Stop in Hardin, Montana, the epicenter of the MMIWG tragedy, where there is not one missing persons poster to be found on the premises. From the time that I've been here, it's very clear that the families of these victims are the people who are initiating and leading these investigations. You would think that it would be law enforcement to lead these investigations, but that's not the case. It doesn't matter if it's federal, local, or state, it's always the same stories. And there's no sense of urgency. There's a lack of interest with these cases. And it's a common theme in every single case that law enforcement does not want to do their jobs, and that these families have to do their jobs for them, on top of grieving and trying to gain some closure for what has happened to their daughters. After multiple fruitless calls and emails seeking the perspective of the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office, I made one final attempt and decided to try and initiate a conversation on MMIWG at the most basic entry point by asking if they had any past or present missing persons posters. Hi, how are you? Good. So I was just wondering if anyone had a poster or a missing persons flyer for K-Sarah Stops Pretty Places or Hub Williamson.
see. Okay.
But you don't currently have one, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know if you have a poster or flyer, missing persons poster or flyer.
Correct. I will look into it.
Okay. Is there someone here, I'm sorry, what is your title?
Captain.
Okay. Is there someone here that would have any information about being contacted through email to give comment about those cases specifically?
Like to you or?
Yeah, just someone reaching out asking for comment. The sheriff's office as a whole giving a comment about those cases and other cases specifically including Indigenous women and girls that have been missing.
I'd get with my detective.
Okay.
And see.
And who's that?
Ty.
Okay. Last name?
Cruikshank.
Okay.
All right. See what he, because he's working those cases.
Okay.
So,
but he's not here?
No.
Okay.
Today he's not.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, you bet.
Do you think the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office is involved in a cover-up?
Well, I think there's several things that point to that. They didn't report finding Kaysara's body to the media. They absolutely 100% knew that that was Kaysara. The officer had to recuse himself. He said he couldn't show the body, but why not look at the clothing? We really feel that there is information on her phone. He said not even the FBI can get into that phone. But the Department of Justice said if they had sent the phone to them, that they can get into it. That there isn't any phone or device that they can't get into or the FBI can't get into.
When that local government asks for federal help, the feds can come in and help with the investigation. That could be happening in Bighorn, and we're not seeing that at this point, and I'm not quite sure what the reason for that is. There's a lot of things that we can speculate to.
After numerous attempts and contacts, the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office declined to comment or participate in this feature.
We just want justice for our sister. She didn't deserve to die.